So we're in the process now of making the top piece of molding, and just like we did with the bracket feet and the base molding, from the plans I drew a template and transferred the molding profile onto the end of the prepared stock. I could use rabbet planes to basically waste away all this excess. I chose to use a table saw, and this is partway through the process, so you can see how I've kind of nibbled along that layout line. And I wanted to note that, or make a point that I left one piece, I could have left this end piece, I could have left this one in place so that this is stable as I'm moving it over the blade. If I would have taken all of this out and finished up here, there basically would be very little support for the piece. I guess I could have worked this way all the way, but that last cut would have been really unstable. So I basically just kept raising the blade, adjusting the fence and moving this piece along to waste this material away. Now the last step, I'll turn this sideways and cut off the excess right around this bead. So then I'll come back with wooden molding planes and clean up to my lines. May use a carving gouge on this bead, and after that a little sandpaper, and I should have the completed top molding for the case. So our top molding is done at this point, and I just wanted to, I didn't tape this because it's so similar to what we did before that I just want to review it real quickly, review the differences. After I nibbled away the majority of the material with the table saw, I actually used a carving gouge. This is an 8/16, and I came in here and just cleaned up this area, just cleaned up all the little chatter between the different saw blades. I did the same up here on this one. And on the top bead here, or top round over, I just used a shoulder plane and literally rounded that over. So I just ran my shoulder plane and just rotated it, just like we did before, just kind of rotated it around like this, pass after pass, until you get around. Then this little cove down here, I did the same thing. I used an 810, came in here and pretty much cleaned this out with a gouge. And so what I was left with then is smoothing these surfaces. The top round over was smooth to the plane, but the carving gouge, it's hard to get a real uniform surface in here. So that cove, this cove, and this cove, I all followed up with scrapers to smooth those out. So what I'm left with after I do that smoothing is this bead. This bead's a little trickier. So I rounded the outside edge as much as I could with a shoulder plane, but it's hard to get a plane back on this inside edge. What I found that worked pretty well is a scraper. I'll show you this, if you can see the profile of this particular scraper. And that fits this bead really well, and I was able to just drag that scraper along this bead and basically finish the shaping on the inside edge. Then I followed up with different radius scrapers for the various coves as well. So this scraper I used for that cove. I had a smaller scraper for this cove down here, and then my largest scraper, this one, I used in a couple of passes for the inside. So that's how I cleaned those up, and then followed it up with a little sandpaper. These profiled sanding blocks, we talked about those before, but these profiled sanding blocks work really nice. I started with 80, 150, 180, and that's plenty fine. So that's really all that is to making this molding. It's a lot of work. It took me probably a couple hours to get this done from start to finish, but there's nothing really difficult about it. So now I'm ready to install it. Well, it's time to install the top molding. I have these pieces pre-cut, and I'll go through the installation shortly. One of the things, though, that I did notice is that this molding doesn't overlap this false top very much at all, so I certainly can't get a fastener in there. So I glued in two nail blocks in this dead space, and I can drive nails into those. Also, since the drawers are next, one of the hidden drawers is going to be right in this area. So I put in a false back, and I just wanted to point that out. You can make this almost any depth you want. I think I made the depth 3/4 of an inch. It'll be a very, very small drawer. If you just slide out the divider, it just fits right in here. Just cut two grooves in here, whatever depth you want. Nothing fancy, just a place to put a secret drawer, and you don't have to pick the center drawer either. You can just as easily, things are kind of fidgety to get in, but you could just as easily put these false backs in up here if you want, or in any drawer in the cabinet, but I chose the center one. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and install the molding. I won't tape that; it's pretty boring. But I will say, as we've done with other pieces, rough up the back and rough up the mating surface on the side with a toothing plane, and you get good adhesion that way. Just make sure your miters line up. You can use a shooting plane for that, or a miter box, and just get it right. I typically will install the front piece first, and I spend some time kind of getting that dialed in. I've already done that, and then the return pieces I leave long. And so this thing is sticking out the end probably 3-4 inches, and once the front piece is in place, I'll mark the back of the return piece and cut that off. But I leave those long until I'm ready to nail in. So with that, time to install the molding, and then we're on to drawers and finishing the project up. Okay, the first drawer up is not a dovetail drawer. It's just it's the hidden drawer that we built the compartment for in the back. And literally we're just going to basically create a little sandwich to build the drawer. So just 3 pieces all mitered at the corners. These will all be basically hidden inside the drawer. Pretty easy to put together. I'll just rub some hide glue on these. Friction fit them in place. Ultimately, we're going to put some clamps on this. We'll get it in place first. So that's it. That's all there is to making that secret drawer, hidden drawer. When I get done, or when the glue is dry, I'll come back and I'll use these square toothpicks. You can get these from Legos. And I'll basically fasten the drawer sides to the glue blocks inside with those toothpicks. You don't need to. The hide glue should be more than sufficient to hold it together. But drawer style one, very simple, but works great for hidden drawers.